Okay, I'm going to start out by saying I only have one layer. So I don't have any, yes, I only have one layer. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Matt and his team taking the courage to push this event forward. And what I hope to share with you today is a little bit of background about Jacksonville as a whole in terms of bridging the gap. I've had a very unique view. I've been in my role at the Chamber since 2012, and I think that's one of the key periods for our city. And I'm going to show a little bit of that today. So when I take a look at this slide, and obviously my job is around a lot of economic development. So I'm going to tell the story through the lens of economic development. And Matt can distribute my slides after the event. This particular slide is important, and I'm going to walk over here. This particular slide is important because if we look right in this area where we start to see those breaks, that's 2012. Up until 2012, I think Jacksonville was really perceived as a small business community. And there's a difference between small business community, entrepreneurial community, and an innovation community. And in 2012, a lot of things started to happen for Jacksonville. If we take a look at the color of those lines, the yellow line represents companies that supply 100 to just under 500 jobs. The red line, which is a sweet spot, especially for bankers, those are the companies that are supply 10 to 99 jobs. And this blue-green line is really our small businesses that actually survive. So those are the businesses that supply 2 to 9 jobs. And you can see in 2012, something happened in Jacksonville. And we started to have more companies in that area that were really contributing to our ecosystem. Being in this, and you can't read this, okay? But being in this space in 2012, I think, okay, there we go. In 2012, we had an initiative at the Chamber through our Jacks USA partnership. Every 5 years, we have a strategic plan. And this is important because entrepreneurs and small business owners don't always get access to what a lot of the large organizations are doing on behalf of our community. And so in my work, I hear a lot of what we don't have and what we should have. But in the background, we have so many organizations that are working extremely hard to build a better ecosystem, but we don't always have an opportunity to communicate that. So our Jacks USA partnership in 2012, our initiative was Innovate Northeast Florida. And then the next 5 years, it was Elevate. And then right now we're in The Future Is Now, which we just gave a presentation last week. So this slide, which my name appeared way too much on this, but I had a lot of responsibility at the Chamber for facilitating relationships and bringing people together to have a discussion about what was possible here in Jacksonville. And it was extremely difficult in 2012, 2013, because we really had a government perspective about how we should help small businesses and entrepreneurs. And while we love government, it's not the best way to build an ecosystem for small business, right? We need them as a part of the social infrastructure, but in order to push us forward, we really need people taking risk. We need people building relationships and great foundations. And I think that's what we started to do in 2012 and 13. Here are some of the things that happened in that 5-year period. By show of hands, how many people are familiar with OneSpark? Excellent, right? Very impactful for our region. Like a lot of startups, didn't necessarily have a sustainable business model, but it was so impactful for pushing our region forward. We went from a small business community to getting recognition worldwide for OneSpark, which was amazing and started a lot of energy. We had our first startup weekend. PS27 emerged here in Northeast Florida. We had a partnership with University of Florida with Startup Quest. Don launched at JU the first conference. All of those things happened within a 5-year period here in Jacksonville. So when we think about the gaps, a lot of times we need to identify we were able to assess what was needed, and then what did the community do as a whole. So there wasn't one company that did all of these things. It was a wide range of people, some taking, big time risk and their own assets. So we have to do a better job of kind of identifying what has actually happened. And we were having a conversation with JEA about this space because there was a lot of people didn't think we would actually complete this space. So there's a lot of talk about it. And in Jacksonville, we talk about a lot of things and we study a lot of things. So when we were able to complete this space, it was a really big deal, right? And so in our conversation with the JEA leadership team, Randy Swift said, this kind of takes us from just Jacksonville to Actionville. And I really thought that was important when we start thinking about what's possible for us in the future. When we execute like this, we are Actionville. So in our Elevate Northeast Florida, again, we identified some things that we really needed to do to push Jacksonville forward. And I wanted to, just kind of highlight here, within this plan, we realized venture capital funding in our metro area was too low. Our region had not seen the startup community like other benchmark metros. So we've identified this as an area that we needed to improve. We have other things that we focused on during Elevate, and I almost took this slide out, but it's a very impactful slide because these are big things. These are really big things, okay? So if we think about during this period of time, Mayo opened the innovation space. That's significant capital that had to go into that place. If we take a look at Nat Ford's, the JTA Autonomous Vehicle Project, that's a really big thing, right? If we take a look at Smart North Florida, which they'll be on later today, that's a really big thing. If we take a look where we are right now, all of these are things that we said we needed to do in our Elevate Northeast Florida, and we were able as a community to bring these things forward. So Jacksonville is executing. So when we start thinking about gaps, we really should be thinking about gaps that get us to opportunity, not necessarily gaps that are deficiencies. There's no region that's going to be perfect, but again, we're executing at a high level. And so by a show of hands, how many people are familiar with the Gartner hype cycles? Gartner hype cycles. Jim is not. All right. So this is extremely important to me. In order for us to move into a place that's more competitive with other regions, we've got to get better at understanding the tools that other regions are using. Everyone in here should be familiar with the Gartner hype cycles. And in short, what this does is when we hear of an emerging technology, we should ask, where is that technology on the hype cycle? Because if we don't know, we discount it. And when we discount it, we don't invest or support the entrepreneurs who may really be cutting edge and moving forward, and then they leave Jacksonville because they get funding in another place who understands the hype cycle. And so I'm going to give everybody a little bit of homework after today to just go and take a look at the Gartner hype cycle. And I can send you an email because I have a lot of different things that I've watched on this. But I'll just tell you a short story. I worked with a few entrepreneurs about 5 years ago with blockchain. And we got zero support here in Jacksonville. Everyone was like, what is that? right? And if we had support 5 years ago in blockchain, okay, where would Jacksonville be, right, in that realm? And that's just one technology, all right? So one of the things that we need to do is there are innovation triggers, and a lot of those are going to be on the front end. Right now, if we take a look at AI, and it's not just tech, it's in a lot of different industries, but we should be applying the Gartner hype cycle to all of this. It's critical to growth. Funding activities, and I just touched on this a little bit, but funding activities, if our community is not familiar with the hype cycle, what happens to the entrepreneurs that are competing on those cycles? They're not supported. They feel that our area is not going to be a place where they can grow that company, and they're going to seek funding and support in other areas. And this is one of the things that has been a shortcoming for us. It's not that we don't have the resources, it's that we've been very conservative in terms of how we support entrepreneurs. We want something that we know is going to work. And so if we take a look at the hype cycle, if we wait until that technology is out here, then we miss all of the innovation. And that's one of the things that we just have to be better at. And I think when we have more funding and we have people that have a different perspective, this is going to be a huge opportunity for us to engage in a lot of different industries and really push some of our entrepreneurs to have that courage to be first. And then one of the things that I think is really a big, big opportunity for us is open innovation. And in short, that's the ability of our enterprises to engage with small businesses, entrepreneurs who are outside of their organization. We actually had in 2020, we started an open innovation initiative in the financial services industry, not financial services, but in the healthcare industry. And what we were able to do is to work with those enterprises, identify their use cases, and then we put those use cases out to entrepreneurs. And once we put those out to the entrepreneurs, all of the responses were direct targets. And of the 7 entrepreneurs, 4 of them wound up doing business with those companies within 90 days. And so we think if we can do more of that, now it took our relationships at the chamber to kind of gain the trust of the enterprises so they could have the discussion. But it was a different approach for us. And that's really one of the big things that we want this center to be about is open innovation. So being at the chamber, we have the ability to engage with nearly every enterprise. We're going to have a certain level of trust with all of those enterprises. But what we've lacked is an actual system in place where we can kind of vet some of those entrepreneurs on the front end. We can vet the relationship on the back end with the enterprises, and we can create a forum or foundation in the middle where we can bring those two together. And so Matt asked me to, kind of have a perspective on, how do we bridge the gaps? So these are 6 things that I think we can do collectively, not all 6, but pick one that you think you can contribute to. Number 1 is we've got to create and promote Jacksonville brands. What is a Jacksonville brand, right? We really should develop something around that to where as an entrepreneur, as an innovator pushes forward, they can be proud that I'm a Jacksonville brand. If we said that today, we're really looking at more of the traditional companies, but I think this is something that could really take us to the next level. We have to attack innovation triggers. So on those Gartner hype cycles, it's okay if we have companies on the front end, not waiting until the back end. Driving technology on the hype cycle. It would be nice if we actually had some new technologies developed here in Jacksonville that others were actually tracking on the hype cycle. A big part of why we're here today is educating and growing a venture capital community. We've spent a lot of time with Charlie and his team, over the last 6 months or so, and there's so much education that we could have here in Jacksonville. One, to cultivate the community that we have, but two, to attract more people to participate in a structured way. Jim talked a little bit about increasing the venture capital investment, and then last, increasing open innovation adoption amongst our large enterprises. And so these are 6 things that I think we can do to kind of bridge the gap. I'll close with, in terms of the future is now, our JAX USA strategic plan, again, which we just gave a presentation last week, is all about the future is now for Jacksonville. And so if you have additional questions outside of this, I can make myself available. And I'm pretty sure we're going to roll out more information on that strategic plan as a community. So with that, I can take any questions, Matt. Time for 2 questions, okay? Questions or comments? Don?
What is the role of universities in the future is now, and what can they do maybe that they're not doing right now?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So my own personal perspective, outside of the future is now, is that we need our universities to do more. We need our universities to be more entrepreneurial, um, and a little less traditional. We need them to open engagement with entrepreneurs and innovators, and we haven't necessarily seen that. So that's one. Two, I think our universities can adopt, there's the triple helix, right? So the triple helix says in order to drive regional innovation, you need strong government, strong academic, and you need strong industry. And our academic partners have not pushed the needle in terms of, let's say, like University of Florida, UCF, who have offices of licensing and technology. When you have an office of licensing and technology, you have lots of people coming in, you have lots of people looking to engage, and we've missed that, here in Jacksonville. And so if I were dreaming, I would say that, one of our institutions should at least put a framework in place for Office of Licensing and Technology to help, support entrepreneurs, because there's lots of programming that comes with that could benefit our community, that the community wouldn't have to pay for because it's being funded by the academic institution.